This is the notes, or the second video. Just going to do some examples dealing with the theorems in the postulate for the special types of angles. You'll notice that each one of those theorems started out exactly the same way. If you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, and that wording, cut by a transversal, just means the transversal is intersecting both parallel lines. When you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, you have these properties. Corresponding angles, you should have seen that they are congruent. Consecutive interior angles, you should have noticed that they are supplementary. Alternate interior angles, should have noticed they are congruent to each other. And the alternate exterior angles, they are congruent to each other. In that first section of note 3.1, we talked about how to recognize, okay, I got two lines with the transversal, these pair of angles are corresponding. These pairs of angles are the alternate interiors. So you should be familiar with recognizing I'm looking at this pair. When you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, now you know something about those pairs of angles. So let's look at these examples. Number 17. First thing you got to do is just every time make sure that these theorems in this postulate is you have the proper information, the hypothesis. If you have parallel lines, which we do, cut by a transversal, we do, then, all right, looking at these two angles, this 80-degree angle and this x plus 15-degree angle, they are in between the parallel lines. They are on different sides of the transversal. That's alternate interior angles. If parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. And so there's our setup. The algebra is simple. Okay? So it's just a matter of making sure what pair of angles you're looking at, and you got parallel lines with the transversal so that you can use that property. In number 18, we are looking at parallel lines. We have a transversal. Come in one parallel line along the transversal, out the other parallel line. We hit those two angles. That's the consecutive interior angles. Consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So that means they have to be 180. Now you're just solving for x. Again, the key thing is which pair of angles are you dealing with? That's going to tell you how to set it up. And then, again, the algebra, I'm not concerned about that. You can solve this one on your own. For question number 19, again, parallel lines. You're looking for that little arrow in the middle of the line. That tells you those two lines are parallel. We have our transversal. These two angles that we are given information about, they're on the exterior of the parallel lines, and they're on different sides of the transversal. So they're alternate interior angles. Again, that theorem, if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, alternate interior angles are congruent. So 2x minus 4 will equal 92. Okay, that's the setup for that one. And this bottom one down here, parallel lines, transversal. We're looking at corresponding angles here. This 120-degree angle. Of these four angles, the top parallel line and the transversal, the 120 degrees is the upper left angle. Of these four angles down here, 3x is the upper left angle. They're in corresponding positions. So, if you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, that's how you do these problems. That is it. When you come into class, we're going to have a couple of warm-ups, a little bit more challenging than these ones, and we'll get going from there. Have a good night.